If you want to see our previous videos and on all videos, then click the channel name or picture below the video, then go to the video or playlist option. This is Bori Critical Mahabharat book Virat Parva, chapter 48, part 2, Arjun Virat War. That noise is like that of a monsoon cloud and the monkey is roaring. Press the red subscribe option and press the bell icon for my latest video updates. The best of charioteers is stationed on his chariot and he is supreme among charioteers. He draws Gandiva, the best of bows, with a sound like that of thunder. These two arrows have fallen together at my feet. These two other arrows have passed me by, touching my ears. Having dwelled in the forest and having accomplished superhuman deeds, Partha is now honoring me and putting questions to my ears. Arjuna said, O charioteer, stop the horses at a place from where I can use arrows on that army until I am able to see that rich among the Kuru lineage in the midst of the soldiers. When I see that insolent one, I will ignore all the others and pounce down on his head. Then all of them will be defeated. Drona is stationed there and Drona's son is after him. Bhishma, Kripa and Karna, great archers, are stationed there, but I do not see the king there. He must have gathered the cattle and left. Anxious to save his life, he must have restored to the southern road, leaving the chariots and soldiers here. Go to where Duryodhana is. O son of Virata, that is the place where I will fight, because the battle there will not be without meat. Having defeated him, I will gather the cattle and return. Vasampayana said, at these words, Virata's son carefully reined the horses. He used the reins to restrain them from where the bulls among the Kurus were. We goaded the mounts in the direction towards which Duryodhana had gone, ignoring the assembled chariots. Svetvahana left. Drona got to know his intentions and spoke these words. Vibhusu does not wish to station himself here. When the king is far away, he is advancing swiftly. Let us attack his flanks. When he is enraged, no one can fight him single handedly in battle, other than the god with the thousand eyes and Devaki's son Krishna. What will we do with these cattle and these great riches if Duryodhana sinks like a boat in Partha's water? Meanwhile, Vibhusu went on and announced his name himself. He swiftly covered the soldiers with arrows that were like locusts because of the mass of arrows unleashed by Partha. The warriors were dispersed. They could not see the earth or the sky because they were enveloped with arrows. They had no inclination to fight, but nor did they have an inclination to run away. In their minds, they honored Partha's swiftness. He then blew the conch shell that makes the body hair of enemies stand up. He drew his excellent bow and incited the wings on his flag. At the sound of the conch shell and the roar of the chariot wheels and those of the inhuman beings who resided on the flag, the cattle raised their tails up and wailed on all the sides. They returned towards the southern direction. Next chapter, Vishambhana said, having routed the enemy's soldiers and having conquered the cattle, Arjuna, the supreme among archers, in a desire to do what which brought him pleasure, advanced in Duryodhana's direction. The cattle ran away towards the Matsyas, thinking that Kiriti had been successful, and seeing him advance towards Duryodhana, the foremost among the Kurus swiftly descended on him, beholding their many soldiers arranged in deep battle formation. With many flags, the destroyer of enemies spoke these words to Matsya, Virata's son. Use these golden reins to swiftly drive these white horses in that direction. Endeavor to quickly take me to where that mass of lion like warriors is gathered. That evil minded son of the Suta wished to fight me. Like an elephant against another elephant, O Prince, Duryodhana's favors have made him insolent. Take me to him, using the golden reins and driving the large horses, and were as swift as the wind. Virata's son broke through that army of charioteers and bore Pandava to the middle. On seeing this march, the Chitrasena, Samgramajit, Shatrushaha, and Jaya advanced to help Karna and countered the advancing Bharata with their arrows and spears, with the flames of his bow and the scorching force of his arrows. That foremost among men burned down the chariots of those bulls among the Kurus like a fire consuming a forest. A terrible battle ensued. Atiratha Vikarna, foremost among Kurus, fiercely attacked Partha, Bhima's junior, from a chariot and shot down arrows on him. He drew the firmly strained bow that were established with the best of gold and routed Vikarna. He shattered the standard that was on his chariot. With his standard destroyed, he fled. Unable to control his anger, wishing to accomplish superhuman deeds, and seeing the oppression of the mass of soldiers, Satrumtapa shot down arrows on the scourger of enemies. He hurled the nail of a tortoise at Partha, praised by that Atiratha king, and emerged amidst the flags of the Kurus. He pierced Satrumtapa with 5 swift arrows and killed his charioteer with 10, having been pierced by the bull among the Bharatas with an arrow that sliced through the armor on his body. The king fell down dead on the ground like a tree dislodged from the peak of a mountain by the wind. Those brave bulls among charioteers were shattered in that battle by a brave bull among charioteers. They trembled like a gigantic forest and shivers at the time when a gale strikes it. Those foremost young ones among men were killed by Partha. In their fine garments, they seemed to be asleep on the ground. They were the grantors of riches and were like Vashava in their valor. But they were vanquished by Vashava's son in battle. They were like ground elephants from the Himalayas, clad in armor made out of iron and gold. Thus, slaying the enemies on the field of battle, the wielder of the Gandiva, foremost among men, began to roam around in that battlefield in different directions. He was like a forest fire at the end of the summer. At that time of spring, the wind that blows in the sky scatters the leaves. Like that, Kiriti shattered his enemies, and the Athiratha roamed around on the battlefield on his chariot. Vakartana's younger brother, spirited Sangramjit, drew red horses, and he killed those steeds. With a single arrow, he sliced off his crowned head. On seeing his brother slain, Vakartana the Suta's son Karna exhibited his valor like a king of elephants displaying his tusks, or like a tiger attacking a large buffalo. Vakatana attacked Pandava, means Arjuna, with 12 arrows. He pierced the bodies of all the horses and that of Virata's son with those arrows. It was like a king among elephants being struck by an elephant. He took out sharp arrows from his quiver and stretching the string of the bow right up to his ear, pierced the body of his Suta's son with arrows unleashed like lightning from his bow. The destroyer of enemies preached him in battle, in the arms, the thighs, the head, the forehead, the neck, and in all the parts of the chariot, thus wounded by the arrows, shot by Partha and scorched by Pandava's arrows. Like a swift elephant that has been defeated by another elephant, Vakatana fled from the forefront of the battle. Bhishmaparna said, after Radheya fled, means Karna fled, the others, with Duryodhana in the lead, attacked with their respective armies and shot Pandava with arrows. On seeing those many soldiers arranged in battle formation attacking him with arrows, Virata's son said, what is your intention, O Jishnu? You are stationed on this beautiful chariot, and I am your charioteer. Towards which part of the army will I advance next? I will go where you ask me to. Arjuna replied, O Uttara, you can see the red eyed one, clad in the skin of a tiger. He is unhurt. He is stationed on a chariot with a blue flag, that is Kripa, and those are his chariots and soldiers. Take me to him. I will show that firm board on my dexterity in use of weapons. The one with the pure and golden water pot on his flag is the preceptor Drona himself, supreme among those who have knowledge of all weapons. O brave ones, circumambulated him carefully without obstructing him in any way. That is the eternal dharma. If Drona strikes at my body first and I strike him back in return, he will not be enraged. There is one who can be seen not far from him with a bow on the top of his standards. That is the preceptor's son Maharata Ashwatthama. I have always honored him, and so have all the wielders of weapons. When you encounter him, his chariot restrained again and again, there is one in that mass of chariots, clad in golden armor. He is stationed, surrounded by 1/3 of the army. An elephant on a golden flag can be seen at the top of his standards. That is Dhritarashtra's son, the illustrious King Suyodhana. O brave one, take this chariot before him. He can destroy the chariots of enemies. The king is indomitable in energy and is irrepressible in battle. In swiftness, in the use of weapons, he is regarded as the foremost among Drona's pupils. But I will show him many times what it means to be swift in use of weapons in battle. The one who has a beautiful elephant's enclosure embellished on his standards is Vakartana Karna, whom you have known earlier. When you approach the chariot of that evil sword Radheya, be careful, because he always challenges me in a battle. There is one whose flag is blue and is decorated with 5 stars. The brave one is stationed on his chariot, his hands encased in guards. He has a large bow. He is stationed on his chariot, and his supreme flag is decorated with stars and the sun. The white and unblemished umbrella is held aloft his head. He is at the head of a great mass of chariots with many flags and pennants. He is like the sun stationed before a mass of clouds. His golden armor can be seen like that moon and the sun. His golden helmet seems to trouble me. This is Santanu's son Bhishma, a grandfather to all of us. He is blessed with royal prosperity but obeys Duryodhana's instructions. You should approach him last so that he does not cause an obstruction for me. When I fight with him, control the horses carefully. Vesnampana said, O king, Virata's son carefully drove Sabyasachi to Kripa, who was ready to engage with Dhananjaya. Vesnampana said the army of the Kurus could be seen with the foremost among archers. It moved like clouds stirred by gentle winds at the end of the summer. Those horses were nearby, mounted by armed warriors. They were elephants that were terrible in form, goaded by clubs and hooks. O king, then Shakra arrived, riding handsomely and with the masses of gods, together with the Vishwadevas, the Ashwins, and the masses of Maruts, crowded with gods, yakshas, gandharvas, and giant serpents. The cloudless sky was dazzling, as if with the planets. They had come to witness the power of their weapons when used by humans and the terrible and great fight that was imminent between Bhishma and Arjuna. The Vimana of the kind of the gods had 100,000 golden pillars. It possessed other gems and jewels that held up the palace. It was divine and was capable of traveling anywhere at will. It was decorated with all kinds of jewels. It was radiant in the sky. Together with Vashava, there were 33 gods there, and Gandharvas, Rakshasas, Snekas, ancestors, and Maharishis. There were the kings Vashumana, Balaksha, Supratardana, Ashtaka, Shibi, Yayati, Nahusha, Gaya, Manu, Shupa, Raghu, Bhanu, Krishasva, Shagara, and Shala. They were extremely resplendent and could be seen on the Biman of the king of the gods Agni, Isha, Soma, Varuna, Prajapati, Dhata, Vidhata, Kubera, Yama, Ambusha, Ugrasena, and the Gandharva Tumbaru were there, each in the place appointed for him and each in his Vimana. All the classes of gods, the Siddhas and the supreme rishis arrived to witness the fight between Arjuna and the Kurus. They scared fragrance of all the divine garlands were everywhere like flowers in the forests at the beginning of spring. The red and rectangle umbrellas of the gods could be seen while they stood there, and their garments, garlands, and fans, all the dust of the earth subsided, and it was permeated by rays carrying the divine fragrance. The wind gratified the warriors. The sky seemed to be colorfully decorated and ornamented by the vimanas that had already arrived and those that were arriving. These were decorated with many gems and were colorful and wonderful, brought by the supreme gods. Vesampana said the great spirited Kripa were supreme among wielders of weapons. He was immensely valorous and powerful. Meanwhile, in a desire to fight with Arjuna, the Maratha arrived. Those two immensely powerful charioteers, like the sun, got ready to fight. They stationed themselves looking like two clouds in the autumn. Partha was famous in the world. Drawing the supreme weapon of Gandiva, he discharged many iron arrows that were capable of piercing the heart, but using sharp arrows and iron arrows that drank blood, Kripa sliced Partha's arrows into hundreds of thousands of pieces before they could reach him. At that, Maratha Partha was engaged and exhibiting many circular movements, enveloped the directions with a shower of arrows. The Lord Partha, whose soul was infinite, covered the sky with arrows and unleashed hundreds of them on Kripa. He was hit by sharp arrows that were like the crests of fire, and enraged, released 1,000 arrows on the infinitely energetic Partha. The great souled Kripa rode on the field of battle. Then the brave Arjuna released four swift arrows, golden at the tips and with straight shafts from Gandiva, and praised his horses. The four horses were pierced with those excellent arrows, struck by those sharp arrows that were like flaming serpents. All the horses suddenly reared up, and Kripa was dislodged from his place. When the descendant of the Kuru lineage saw that Gautama had been dislodged from his place, the destroyer of enemy warriors did not face him with a desire to preserve his honor. Having regained his position, Gautama swiftly reached Sabyasachi with 10 arrows that were shafted with the feathers of herons. Then Partha sliced his bow with a sharp arrow and made it fall down from his hand. He broke off the armor with other sharp arrows that pierced the heart. However, Partha did not pierce the body. Freed of the armor, his body was radiant like a snake shedding its skin at the right time. When one bow had been cut down by Partha, Gautama grasped another and strung it. It was extraordinary. Kunti's son cut that down too, with arrows that had smooth shafts. In this way, Sharadvat's son took up many other bows in his hand, but Pandava, the destroyer of enemy warriors, cut them all down. With all his arrows shattered, the powerful charioteer picked up a javelin and hurled it at Pandu's son like flaming lightning. That javelin was embellished with gold and descended from the sky like a giant meteor, but Arjuna cut it down with 10 arrows. When it was brought down onto the ground by the intelligent Partha, it shattered into 10 pieces. In between, Kripa grasped arrows and a bow and swiftly pierced Partha with 10 sharp arrows. The greatly energetic Partha was enraged in battle. He retailed with 13 arrows that had been sharpened on stone, as energetic as the fire. He struck down the yoke with one and used four arrows to kill the four horses. Using a sixth, he sliced off the charioteer's head from the body. In that battle, the immensely strong one cut down the bamboo poles with three and the axles of the wheels with two. With a 12th arrow, he sliced down the standard. Then, smilingly, Falguna smote Kripa on the chest with a 13th arrow that was like the Vajra. His bow was shattered. He was bereft of his chariot. His horses were slain. His charioteer was dead. Kripa quickly jumped down with a club in his hand and hurled a club, but that heavy and decorated club was repulsed by Arjuna with his arrows. To save the intolerant Sharadvat in that field of battle, all the warriors then showered Partha with arrows from all sides. Virata's son, the charioteer, then turned the horses to the left, executing a Yamaka turn so as to restrain those fighters extremely swiftly. Those bulls among men then took Kripa, who was without a chariot, away from Kunti's son Dhananjaya. Arjuna said, O fortunate one, O venerable one, O golden altar, as radiant as the crest of the fire. He held aloft a golden standard decorated with golden flags. Then, that is Drona's army. Take me there. His horses are seen to be red and large, and they have been trained to bear well. They are quiet and have the complexion of coral. Their faces have the hue of copper, and they are pleasant to look at. They are yoked to his supreme chariot, and they have been trained in every kind of knowledge. He has long arms and is extremely energetic. He is endowed with strength and beauty. He is famous in all the world. He is the beautiful Bharadwaja. He is the equal of Ushanas in his intelligence, the equal of Brihaspati in his knowledge of policy. The four Vedas are vested in him, and Brahmacharya too. All the divine weapons with means of withdrawing them, and the entire knowledge of archery are always vested in him. Forgiveness, self control, truthfulness, non violence, uprightness, these and many other qualities exist in that supreme of Brahmanas. I wish to fight with that immensely fortunate one in battle, O Uttara. Therefore, swiftly bear me to the preceptor. Vishampana said, thus spoken to by Arjuna, Virata's son urged the hero horses and golden harness. In Bharadwaja's direction, Pandava, supreme among charioteers, descended with great force. Drona advanced towards Partha like a mad elephant towards another. He blew his conch shell with the roar of 100 drums, and the entire army was agitated like the ocean on seeing those excellent red horses mix in battle with one that were the color of swans and as swift as the mind. All the men who were in that fight were amazed. They saw those two charioteers endowed with valor. In the forefront of the battle, the preceptor and disciple Drona and Partha. They were undefeated, learned, intelligent, and immensely strong. Each was like the other, and they engaged each other. On seeing this, the great army of the Bharatas trembled repeatedly. On reaching Drona's chariot with his own chariot, the valorous Maharatha Partha smiled in delight. The mighty armed Kaunteya, the destroyer of enemy warriors, honored him and spoke to him in soft and conciliatory words. We have lived the stipulated duration in the forest. We now wish for the act in return. Do not be angry with us. You are always invincible in battle, O unblemished one. I will not strike you first unless you strike me. I have decided this in accordance with my intelligence. Now do what you deem to be fit. Thus addressed Drona dispatched more than 20 arrows at him, but Partha's swift of hand sliced them down before they could reach him. Displaying his swiftness in discharge of weapons, the valorous Drona shot Partha's chariot with 1,000 arrows. Thus, the duel between Bharadwaja and Kiriti commenced. In that battle, both equally released tufted arrows, blazing in energy at each other. Both of them were famous for their deeds. Both were as swift as the wind. Both were knowledgeable in the use of divine weapons. Both were extremely energetic when they unleashed their nets of arrows. They confounded the kings. All the assembled warriors were astounded and applauded and honored the release of arrows. Who but Falguna is capable of countering Drona in battle? The dharma of Kshatriyas is terrible. He has to fight with his preceptor. These were the words spoken by those who were stationed in the forefront of that battle. Those two brave Maharathas drew near and covered each other with arrows to defeat the others. Bharadwaja was enraged and drew an invincible and large bow that was plated with gold at the back. He countered Falguna. He discharged a net of arrows towards Arjuna's chariot. They were as bright as the sun and had been sharpened on stone. They shrouded the rays of the sun. The mighty armed Maratha priest Partha and extremely fast and sharp arrows like clouds showering a mountain with rain. Pandava happily grasped the divine bow Gandiva, capable of destroying enemies at great speed and capable of bearing a supreme burden. He released many colorful and golden arrows from that bow and repulsed the valorous Bharadwaja's shower of arrows. It was extraordinary. Partha Dhananjaya roamed around on his chariot, and it was a sight fit to behold. He displayed all his weapons simultaneously in all directions with his arrows. He covered the entire sky with the large shadow. Drona could no longer be seen, as if he was uh, enshrouded in fog. When he was covered with these supreme arrows, his form seemed to be like that of a mountain, with fires blazing in every direction. On seeing that his chariot was covered by Partha's arrows in that battle, he drew his beautiful bow with a roar that was like that of the clouds. He drew that supreme and terrible weapon, which was like a circle of fire. Drona, the adornment of assemblies, then countered all those arrows, a great sound arrows like that when bamboos are burned. Gold tipped arrows were discharged from his supreme bow. The one whose was immeasurable enveloped the directions and the rays of the sun. Those arrows were golden tipped and straight. When they transversed the sky, they were seen to be like many wings. The tipped arrows were released from Drona's bow, and it seemed as if there was one long and single arrow in the sky, thus releasing great arrows that were decorated with gold. Those two brave ones covered the sky as if with meteor decorated with the feathers of herons and peacocks. The arrows looked like a flock of geese traveling in the autumn sky. There ensued a terrible and fearful battle between the great soul Drona and Pandava, like that between Vitra and Vashava. They wounded each other like elephants with their tusks. They shot arrows at each other from bows that were completely stretched. They fiercely decorated that field of battle from one part of the battlefield to another. They released divine weapons. Arjuna, supreme among victorious ones, used sharp arrows to counter the arrows sharpened on stone, released by the best of preceptors. Indra's son displayed his own terrible aspect and swiftly covered the sky with many arrows. Drona, foremost among teachers and supreme among the wielders of arms, began to play with the supremely energetic Arjuna, tiger among men, who was trying to kill him in that battle. He used arrows with straight shafts. Bharadwaja unleashed divine weapons in that great battle. Phalguna countered every weapon with another weapon. The duel between those two angry and intolerant lions among men was like that between the gods and the Danavas. Drona released Indra, Vaivya, and Agnya weapons, and Pandava used his own weapons to devour them. Those two brave and great archers released sharp arrows and covered the entire sky like a shadow with showers of arrows. When Arjuna released arrows and they descended on the bodies, the sound that was heard was like that of lightning on mountains. O Lord of the earth, elephants, chariots, and horses looked like blossoming kimshuka flowers drenched in blood. When they fell down, the arms of the Maharathas were adorned with colorful armlet, and their armor and pennants were golden. Oppressed by Partha's arrows, many warriors died there. The armies were confounded in that encounter between Drona and Arjuna. Both of them brandished their bows capable of withstanding great burdens. In that battle, they covered each other with arrows and bore the retaliation. A voice was heard from the sky, praised Drona. Drona has performed an extremely difficult task of fighting with Arjuna, who is the destroyer of enemies, extremely valorous, firm in his hand and unassailable. The Maratha is the conqueror of all the gods, the Daityas and the Snakas. On beholding Partha's fixedness, learning, dexterity, and great reach in battle, Drona was emerged obul among the Bharata lineage. In that battle, Partha raised the invincible and divine bow Gandiva and drew it with his arms. He released a shower of arrows like a cloud of locusts. Even the wind was not capable of gliding through those arrows. There was not even an instant between Partha's shooting an arrow and the next one. No gap could be seen. In that extremely terrible battle of swiftly released weapons, Partha shot the arrows faster and faster. The hundreds and thousands of straight-tipped arrows descended simultaneously on Drona's chariot. O bull among the Bharata lineage, the wielder of the Gandiva enveloped Drona with arrows and a great lamentation arose from the army. Maghavan himself applauded Pandava's swiftness with weapons, and so did the Gandharvas and Apsaras who had assembled there. Then the preceptor's son, leader of charioteers, suddenly encircled Pandava with a great number of chariots. Through Ashwatthama was greatly enraged with Partha. In his heart, the great soul one applauded his deeds. Overcome by anger, he confronted Partha in that battle and shot him with arrows like Parjanya showering rain, the mighty armed, and turned his horses towards Drona's son, and thus Partha gave Drona a chance to retreat. His armor and flag had been shattered with supreme arrows, and getting the opportunity, the brave one leapt on his swift horses. Next, chapter 54, Vaishampayana said, he arrived with great speed, showering a great net of arrows like clouds charged with rain. Partha countered him. There was a great battle like that between the gods and the Asuras. Like Vitra and Vashava, they covered each other with nets of arrows. The sun did not shine then, nor did the wind blow. The sky was enveloped and shadowed by a net of arrows in every direction. O conqueror of enemy cities, there was a great sound of slapping as the two warriors fought each other and tried to kill each other. Like the sound of bamboos being burned, Arjuna destroyed his horses and only a few were left alive. O king, they were so confused that they could not make out the directions. Partha was roaming around. Drona's immensely valorous son detected Drona's son means Ashwatthama, detected a subtle weakness and sliced off the string of his bow with an arrow that was as sharp as a razor. On witnessing this superhuman feat, the gods applauded from a distance of 8 bow lengths. Drona's son, bull among men, again pierced Partha in the heart with an arrow that was shafted with feathers of herons. The mighty armed Partha laughed out aloud and powerfully corded Gandiva with a new string. Partha drew it in the shape of a half moon and countered him like the mad leader of a herd of elephants against another crazy elephant. Those two warriors were unrevealed on earth in the midst of that field of battle. An extremely great duel assured, making the body hair stand up on seeing those two great souled and brave ones like two leaders of herds engaged in combat. All the Kurus were astounded those two brave bulls among men struck each other with arrows that were like virulent poison and like flaming serpents. The great soul Pandava possessed two divine and accessible quarters. Therefore, the brave Partha stood on that field of battle, immobile as mountain. But Ashwatthama's arrows were speedily discharged in that battle and were exhausted. Thus, Arjuna proved to be superior to him. Then Karna grasped an extremely large bow. He drew it in great anger and a great sound of lamentation arose. Partha looked in the direction where the bow had been drawn, and seeing Radha there, his anger increased. He was overcome by anger and wished to kill Karna. With dilated eyes, the bulls among the Kurus glanced towards him. O king, he turned away from Drona's son. All through the soldiers swiftly brought thousands of arrows to him. O mighty armed Dhananjaya, conqueror of enemies, ignored Drona's son and suddenly rushed towards Karna. With eyes red in anger, Kontia approached him, hoping for a duel in battle. He said, Next chapter, Arjuna said, O Karna, you uttered many proud words in the midst of the assembly hall to the effect that there was no one who was your equal in war. Disregarding all of Dharma, you spoke harsh words, but I think that your wish is impossible to accomplish. You ignored me and spoke words earlier, O Radha, now with me and in the midst of these Kurus, make that true. You watched when evil soul once oppressed Panchali in the assembly hall. You will now reap the fruits of that. Being bound down on the nose of Dharma, my rage was restrained earlier, O Radha. You will not witness the victory of my anger in battle, O Karna. Now fight with me and let all the Kurus and their soldiers witness it. Karna replied, O Partha, carry out in deeds what you have spoken in words. It is known on earth that deeds are superior to words. What you suffered earlier was because your powers were insufficient, O Partha. I will accept it only if I witness your valor. If your rage was restrained earlier because you were bound down by the nose of Dharma, you are tied down even now. Through you consider yourself to be free, you say that you are conversant with Dharma and Artha. If you have dwelt in the forest in accordance with the promise, why do you wish to break that agreement now? O Partha, if Shakra himself decide to fight on your behalf, I will not deviate from displaying my valor. O Konteya, your desire will soon be fulfilled. You will fight with me today and witness my strength. Arjuna said, When fighting with me, you have earlier fled from the field of battle. O Radheya, that is the reason why you are still alive. Through your younger brother has been killed. Which man other than you will see his brother dead and then flee from the forefront of battle? Then you speak like this in the midst of truthful ones. Vishambhana said, having thus spoken to Karna, the unvanquished Vibhatsu attacked him and released arrows that could penetrate body armor. Karna countered with arrows that were like the crest of flames and rained down a great shower of arrows like monsoon clouds. The terrible net of arrows covered every direction. They separately pierced his horse's arms and girds on his hands. Unable Unable to tolerate this, he sliced off the strip of Karna's quiver with a straight-tipped arrow, sharp at the tip. Grasping other arrows from his quiver, Karna pierced Pandava on the hand, so that his grip weakened. The mighty armed Arjuna then sliced up Karna's bow. He hurled a javelin at him, but Partha cut that down with arrows. Then Radheya's large infantry attacked, but they were sent to Yama's abode with arrows released from Gandiva. Bivatsu then stretched his bow up to his ears and killed his horses with sharp arrows that could take a great weight. They fell down dead on the ground. The mighty armed and glorious Kaunteya took up another flaming arrow and pierced Karna in the chest. The arrow pierced his armor and penetrated his body. He was immersed in darkness and lost consciousness for some time. Suffering great pain, he left the field of battle in a northern direction. Arjuna and Mahabharata Uttara started to censure him. Next chapter, Vishampana said, having defeated Vekartana Karna, Partha told Virata's son, take me to the army where that is golden palms. Our grandfather Santanushan Bhisma is stationed on a chariot there. He looks like an immortal and is stationed there wishing to fight with me. I will cut down the string of his bow in a battle. You will witness today a colorful and divine weapon unleashed by me. It will strike like lightning in the midst of a storm in a sky. The Kurus will witness my Gandiva with a golden bag. All the assembled enemies will debate among themselves, is he shooting with the right hand or the left? I will make an impassable river flow with waves of blood, added of chariots and elephants as crocodiles. It will flow towards the next world. This forest of Kurus has hands, feet, heads, back, and arms as branches. I will cut it down with straight tipped arrows. The Kaurava soldiers will be vanquished by my bow alone, like a fire in the forest. I will create 100 paths preached by me alone. You will see the soldiers twirling on a wheel stands firmly on the chariot over pain and uneven ground. I will press with my arrows and mount that rise up into the sky. Earlier, instruction, on Indra's instruction, I killed thousands and hundreds of Polamas and Kalakanjas in battle. I have obtained my firm grip from Indra and my dexterity of hands from Brahma. I have learned from Prajapati deep, terrible, and wonderful techniques. I destroyed Hiranyapura on the other side of the ocean. After vanquishing 60,000 chariots who wielded terrible bows, the forest of the Kurus has the banner as the trees, the soldier as the grass, and the chariots as groups of lions. I will consume it with the energy of my weapons. With my straight-tipped arrows, I will draw them out from the nest of their chariots. Like the wielder of the Vajra destroyed the Asuras alone, I obtained the Rodra weapon from Rudra, Varuna from Varuna, Agnya from Agni, Vavya from Matarshivan, and the Vajra and other weapons from Shakra, means Indra. The terrible sons of Dhritarashtra are protected by lions among men, but I will uproot them, O son of Vitra, remove all your fears. Thus, assured by Sabyasachi, Virata's son penetrated the intelligent Bhishma's terrible army of chariots. The mighty armed Dhananjaya advanced to conquer his enemies, but the one who was terrible in deeds countered this fearful advance. Four immensely strong ones advanced towards the one with the terrible bow, Dushasana, Vikarna, Dushaha, and Vivinshati. They were skilled and spirited and adorned with colorful garlands and ornaments. They advanced and countered Vivatsu and wielder of the terrible bow. Dushasana preached Virata's son Uttara with an arrow. With a second one, the brave one preached Arjuna on the chest. Jishnu circled with an arrow that was shafted with the feathers of vultures and had a broad tip. He sliced off his bow that was decorated with polished gold. He then pierced him in the breast with 5 arrows. Oppressed by Partha's arrow, he fled from the field of battle. With arrows that were sharp, straight and shafted with the feathers of vultures, Dhritarashtra's son Vikarna and priest Arjuna. Dhritarashtra's son Vikarna then priest Arjuna, the slayer of enemy warriors, but Kaunteya immediately pierced him with straight-tipped arrows on his forehead, and thus wounded he fell down from the chariot. Then, seeking to rescue their brother in battle, Dushya, together with Bhimishati, rushed towards Partha and enveloped him with sharp arrows, but the alert Dhananjaya struck both of them at the same time with sharp arrows that were shafted with the feathers of vultures and killed their horses. With their horses slain and their limbs pierced, the two sons of Dhritarashtra were borne away by their followers, who arrived on other chariots. Thus, the unvanquished Bibhatsu, the demand and immensely strong Kaunteya accomplished in striking the target, covered all the directions. Vaishampana said, O descendant of the Bharata lineage, all the Mahabharata Kauravas now got together and counter-attacked Arjuna with determination. But he, one whose soul cannot be measured, covered the Maharathas everywhere with shower of arrows like mountain shrouded with fog. The giant elephants trumpeted, the horses neighed, the kettle drums and conch shells resounded. A terrible tumult arose, piercing the bodies of men and horses, sliced through iron armor. Partha's shower of arrows struck in thousands. Partha swiftly stored and shot arrows in that battle, ablaze like the resplendent autumn sun at midday. Struck by terror, the charioteers leapt down from their chariots and the cavalry from their horses. The infantry began to flee on the ground. When the great soul one's arrows pierced the armor made of copper, silver, and iron, there was a mighty roar. The entire battlefield was strewn with bodies of those who had lost their senses, and with elephants, horses, and other animals which had been robbed of their lives by the sharp arrows. The earth was covered with the corpses of those who had fallen down from their station on their chariots. Dhananjaya seemed to be dancing in that battle with a bow in his hand. On hearing Gandiva's twang like the roar of a thunder, all the beings were frightened and fled from the great field of battle. Their fallen heads could be seen in the forefront of the battle, with earrings and headdresses embellished with gold. The earth was strewn with bodies that had been destroyed by the arrows, with the arms beholding bows and the hands decorated with ornaments. O bull among the Bharata lineage, because the heads were struck down with sharp arrows, it seemed as if a shower of rocks had fallen down from the sky. Having displayed his terrible self, Partha, whose valor was terrible, roamed around after having been restrained for 13 years. The brave Pandava unleashed the anger of his wrath on the sons of Dhritarashtra on witnessing his valor as he burned down the soldiers. All the warriors shouted peace while Dhritarashtra's son looked on. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, having terrified the soldiers and routed the Maharathas, Arjuna, foremost among victorious ones, roamed around. He made a terrible river flow Its current was made out of blood, the moss was made out of bones. It was as if destiny had fashioned it at the end of an era. There was a terrible flow of bows and arrows. The mud was made out of flesh and blood. The great chariots were like giant islands. There was the roar of conch shells and drums. Thus Partha created a giant river of blood that was difficult to cross. No one could make out when he affixed his arrows and released them, or when he drew the Gandiva, because no gap could be discerned. Vishwampana said that Duryodhana, Karna, Dushasana, Bhimsati, Drona, and Drona's son Ashwathama and Kripa, who was an Athiratha in battle, returned angrily to the battle again, wishing to cause violence to Dhananjaya. They drew their sturdy and powerful boss, O great king. The one with the monkey on his banner went forward to meet them on a chariot that was as radiant as the sun. With his flag unfurled, Kripa, Karna, and Drona, supreme among chariots, immensely valorous and with great weapons, sought to repulse Dhananjaya. They released a flood of arrows like rain from monsoon clouds. A shower of arrows descended on Kiriti. They stationed themselves nearby and, with great determination in that field of battle, swiftly showered him with many arrows that possessed feathered shafts. Having been thus covered from every direction with divine weapons, not even a space of 2 fingers could be seen on him. But Maharata Bibhatsu laughed and fixed his divine Indra weapon on Gandiva. It was as radiant as the sun. In that battle, the diademed and powerful Kaunteya covered all the Kurus with arrows that burned like the rays of the sun. Gandiva was like lightning in the clouds, like fire in the mountains, and as long as Indra's weapon. It was like Parjanya showers and like lightning in the sky, like a bird. Gandiva enveloped and 10 direction. Gandiva enveloped the 10 directions. All the charioteers were completely terrified and shouted, "Shout peace!" They were bereft of their senses, losing their consciousness. All the warriors lost heart in the battle. Obul among the Bharata lineage, thus all the soldiers were shattered and fled in all directions. They lost hope that they would remain alive. Next chapter, Vishampana said, the Shantanu's son, Bhishma, powerful and invincible, advanced towards Dhananjaya. While all the warriors were being killed in battle, he took up the best of bows, decorated with gold, and arrows that were sharp at the tip, capable of piercing the vitals of the heart. A white umbrella was held aloft his head. The tiger among men was as radiant as a mountain at the time of sunrise. Ganga's son blew on his conch shell and delighted the sons of Dhritarashtra. He circled and prepared to battle Bibhutsu. On seeing him advance, Kaunteya, the destroyer of enemies, gladly, received him gladly, like a mountain receives a cloud full of rain. The brave Bhishma shot 8 arrows at Partha's banner. They were extremely swift, and those blazing and feathered arrows struck the banner of Pandu's son and struck the monkey and the other beings that were stationed on the top of the standard with an arrows that was sharp and broad. Pandava sliced off Bhishma's umbrella and it fell down on the ground. With firm and swift arrows, Kaunteya struck his banner and horses yoked to his chariot and the 2 charioteers who guarded his flanks. Then a terrible battle began between Bhishma and Arjuna, means Pandava, like that between Bali and Bashava, and it made the body hair stand up when Bhishma and Pandava fought each other in the battle. Arrows contoured arrows in the sky and seemed like fireflies during the rains. O king, as Partha shot arrows with his left hand and his right, Gandiva looked like an unbroken circle of fire. He enveloped Bhishma with hundreds of sharp arrows like a rain cloud covering a mountain with a shower of rain. With his own arrows, Bhishma repulsed Arjuna and countered that shower of arrows like a shoreline beating back waves. In that battle, the shower of arrows was splintered and fell down around Falguna's chariot. A shower of arrows with golden shafts then arose from Pandava's chariot like a swarm of locusts, but yet again Bhishma cut them down with hundreds of sharp arrows. All the Kurus applauded. Wonderful! Bhishma has accomplished a difficult task in fighting with Arjuna. Pandava is powerful, young, skilled, and swift. Truly, who other than Shantanu's son Bhishma, Devaki's son Krishna, or the immensely strong preceptor who is Bharadwaja's son, is capable of withstanding Partha's force in battle, using weapons to counter weapons? Those bulls among men seem to be playing. Those immensely strong ones confounded the sight of all beings. Those great souled ones roamed on that field of battle using Prajapatya, Indra, the extremely terrible Agnya, Kobera, Varuna, Yama, and Vaibhya weapons. All the beings who witnessed the battle were astounded. They said, O mighty armed Partha, wonderful, O Bhishma, wonderful, it is not for man to witness this great battle with mighty weapons between Bhishma and Partha. Thus, the battle between those two who were skilled in the use of all weapons went on. Then Jishnu fixed a broad and sharp arrows to his bow and sliced down Bhishma's bow, which was decorated with gold. In an instant, the mighty armed and immensely strong Bhishma grasped another bow in the field of battle, strung it, and angrily released many arrows at Dhananjaya. But Arjuna shot many sharp and colorful arrows at Bhishma, and the immensely energetic Bhishma shot many at Pandava. They were both skilled in the use of divine weapons and instantly shot arrows at each other. O king, neither of the great souled ones could be seen to be superior. The uh, diademed Kaunteya and Santanu's brave son, both Adhirathas, covered the 10 directions with their arrows. At time, Pandava surpassed Bhishma. At other times, Bhishma surpassed Pandava. O king, that battle was extraordinary in this world. Pandava killed the brave warriors who guarded Bhishma's chariot. O king, killed by Kaunteya, they were piled up in front of the chariot. Svetvahana's feathers, means Arjuna's feathered shafts, seemed to have wings. They leapt up when released from Gandiva, wishing to destroy the enemy. They leapt up from his chariot, white and adorned in gold, like a flock of geese seen in the sky. He released his deep and divine weapons, and it was marvelous. All the gods, together with Vasava, assembled in the sky to witness this. On witnessing this extraordinary sight, the powerful Gandharva Chitrasena was extremely delighted and told the king of the gods these words of praise. Look at the way these arrows, the destroyer of enemies, travel. As Jishnu released his divine weapons, they are linked in a chain. Men will not believe this because they do not exist among them. There has been a wonderful collection of these ancient and great weapons. The soldiers are incapable of looking at Pandava. He dazzled like the midday sun in the sky. They are both famous in their deeds. They are skilled in battle. They are equal in their exploits. They are extremely difficult to vanquish in battle. O descendant of the Bharati lineage, on hearing these words, the king of the gods honored the duel between Partha and Bhishma with a divine shower of flowers. Having perceived a weakness, Santanu's son Bhishma attacked Sabyasachi from the left side, but Vibhatsu laughed out aloud. With a broad and sharp arrow shafted with the feathers of vultures, he sliced down the immensely energetic Bhishma's bow with 10 arrows. Kunti's son Dhananjaya preached the brave and careful one on his chest. Thus oppressed, Ganga's mighty armed son, invincible in battle, clung to the pole of the chariot and stood there for a long time. On seeing that he had lost his senses, the charioteer remembered his instruction and, controlling the horse that were yoked to the chariot, drove away so as to protect the Mahabharat. Vaishnampayana said, when Bhishma had left the forefront of the battle and had run away, Dhritarashtra's great-souled son raised up his standard and himself advanced towards Arjuna. Dhananjaya, extremely valorous and wielder of the terrible bow, was roaming around in the midst of the enemy hot race. He drew his bow up to his ears and with an arrow pierced him in the middle of his forehead. The arrow's tip was extremely sharp and golden. O king, struck by it, the performer of great deeds looked as beautiful as a mountain with a single peak. Pierced by the arrow, warm blood gushed out of the wound. The golden arrows was as beautiful as a flowery garland. Struck by the arrows, he was enraged and rushed at Duryodhana in wrath. He looked out arrows that were like poison and fire and spiritedly preached the king. Duryodhana was extremely energetic and attacked Partha, and the brave one attacked Duryodhana alone. Those two brave ones among men fought each other. They were both equal and were born in the lineage of Ajamidha. Vikarna also rode on a gigantic and rooting elephant that was as large as a mountain, and with 4 chariots protecting the elephant's legs, attacked Kunti's son Jishnu. That Indra among elephants swiftly bore down on him. Dhananjaya grasped an extremely swift iron arrow, drawing his bow up to his ears, he pierced it between its temples. The arrow released by Partha was shafted with the feathers of vultures. It penetrated the elephant right up to the feathers. Like the Vajra released by Indra shattered a mountain, it shattered the one that was like a mountain. The king of elephants was tormented by the arrow. Its limbs began to tremble and its soul was distressed. It slowly fell down on the ground like a peak of a mountain that has been struck by a thunderbolt. When the supreme of tusked ones fell down on the ground, Vikarna was terrified and dismounted swiftly. He fled for a full 800 paces and climbed onto Bibhinshati's chariot. Having slain the elephant with the arrow, like the Vajra strikes down a mountain or a cloud, Partha used a similar arrow to pierce Duryodhana on the chest. The elephant and the king having both been pierced, Vikarna having been routed with the infantry that guarded him, the foremost among warriors were frightened of the arrows released from Gandiva and swiftly fled. Having seen that the elephant had been killed with an arrow and that all the warriors had run away, the foremost among Kurus retreated on his chariot from the field of battle and went to a spot where Partha was not present, but Kriti was still eager to do battle. The destroyer of enemies addressed Duryodhana, who had been pierced by the arrow and was vomiting blood and was swiftly trying to run away in terrible fright. Arjuna said, "Renounce your deeds and great fame. Why are you running away in this way and refraining from battle? Why are not trumpets being sounded for you now, the way that were sounded when you set out to do battle? O obediently follow Yudhishthira's instruction. I am the third of the Parthas, and I am steadfast in battle. Therefore, turn around and show me your face, O son of Dhritarashtra. Remember how Indra's among men and supposed to act. You have been named Duryodhana earlier, but that name will be uttered on earth in vain. There is no Duryodhana left in you. You are running away and refraining from battle. I do not see anyone to protect Duryodhana either at the front or at the back. O foremost among Kurus, therefore run away from the battle. Protect your beloved life from the Pandava. Vaishampayana said Dhritarashtra's great souled son was thus summoned to do battle. He was brought back by that goat of words like a mad elephant with a goat. The Maratha became intolerant because of the insulting words spoken by the spirited Atiratha, like a serpent that has been stepped on with the sole of the foot. The brave one turned his chariot back. Karna saw that he was turning around. He also returned and tended to his wounded limbs. He advanced towards Duryodhana's right flank and got ready to fight with Partha. The brave one among men, who was adorned in a golden garland, Shantanu's son Bhishma, also returned. He swiftly prodded his horses with golden harness and protected Duryodhana from the near from Partha, the mighty armed one who wielded a bow. Drona, Kripa, Bhimshati, and Dushasana also swiftly returned. All of them swiftly arrived with bows and arrows to protect Duryodhana. Partha saw those armies return like heavy clouds, like a swan advancing towards a descending cloud. The spirited Dhananjaya advanced towards them. They grasped divine weapons and surrounded Partha from every direction. They showered down arrows on him like clouds showering rain on the summit of a mountain. The wielder of the Gandiva used weapons to counter the weapons of the bulls among the Kurus. The destroyer of enemies then made the weapons named Sammohana appears. This was impossible to counter. He covered all the directions and all the smaller directions with sharp arrows that had fine tips and fine shafts. With the roar of the Gandiva, the immensely strong one struck terror in their minds. He then grasped the giant conch shell in both his hands, one that had a deep and trembling sound. Partha, the destroyer of enemies, used this to make the sound echo in the smaller directions, the sky and the earth. At the roar of the conch shell blown by Partha, the foremost among the Kurus fell down unconscious. They gave up their invincible bows, and all of them restored to peace. When they had lost consciousness, Partha remembered Uttara's word. He told Matsya's son, "Go from the center to where the Kurus are lying unconscious. Bring the preceptors and Sharadvaj's sons extremely white garments, and Karna's beautiful one. Those of Drona's son and the king are blue. O brave one among men, go and fetch those garments. I think that Bhishma know how to counter the weapon and is still in his senses. Therefore, when you approach those who have not lost their senses, you should leave his vehicle to the left. Virata's great soul son handed over the reins and jumped down from the chariot. He gathered the garments of the Maharathas and again swiftly ascended his own chariot. Virata's son then drove those four well trained horses and golden harnesses bearing Arjuna. The white steed passed through the midst of the army and its standards when that foremost among men passed through. The spirited Bhishma shot arrows at him, but he killed Bhishma's horses and struck him in the side with 10 arrows. Having killed his charioteer Arjuna, the wielder of invincible bow left Bhishma on the field of battle. He emerged from the midst of that mass of chariots like the one with the thousand rays shattered Rahu. Dhritarashtra's son, foremost among the Kurus, regained his consciousness soon and beheld Partha, the equal of the great Indra. He saw him stationed alone, away from the field of battle. He quickly asked, how did he escape from you? Oppress him so that he cannot escape. Santanu's son uh, laughingly replied, where did your intelligence disappear? Where was your valor? You had given up your colorful bow and your arrows. You were immersed in complete peace then. Bibutsu is incapable of cruel deeds. His mind is never immersed in sin. He will not give up his own dharma even for the sake of the three worlds. That is the reason all of us have not been killed in this battle. O foremost among the Kurus, returned swiftly to the Kuru kingdom. Let Partha return with the cattle he was conquered. On hearing these words of the grandfather, which were meant for his welfare, Duryodhana gave up all desire to fight. The intolerant kind sighed deeply but kept silent. All the others saw the wisdom of Bhishma's words and knew the increasing fire within Dhananjaya. They therefore made up their minds to return and carefully protected Duryodhana. On seeing the foremost among the Kurus leave, Partha Dhananjaya was delighted in his mind. The great soul one followed them for an instant so as to honor his superiors. He bowed down with his head on the ground before the aged grandfather Santanu's son and the preceptor Drona. He used colorful arrows to show homage to Drona's son Kripa and all his superiors. Partha then used an arrow to slice off Duryodhana's jeweled crown from his head. Having gathered the brave ones who deserved to be honored, he filled the world with the roar of Gandiva. The brave one suddenly sounded Devdatta and shattered the minds of his enemies. Having vanquished all his enemies, his pennants, garlands, so that means battle, uh, garlanded with gold, was radiant. On seeing the Kuru leave, Kiriti happily told the son of Matsya, the animals have been won. Make the horses return. The enemies have left. Let us return happily to the city.